Let's talk to former U.S. Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. His book is called Crisis of Command: How We Lost Trust and Confidence in America's Generals and Politicians. It comes out September 6th. Great to have you with us, Lieutenant Colonel.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
And you're still the only person really to face any kind of consequences for Afghanistan. You just decided to speak out about it, understandably emotional about watching 13 young men and women die over there. So you're it. You know, you're the only person to be held to account.
Yes, I demanded accountability with a video I posted August 26th of last year. And to date, no one has been held account. But I do think the book that's coming out, Crisis of Command, lays out the systemic problems within the military. And I think making Americans aware of the problem is the first part of the solution.
For sure. And, you know, many say the fall of Kabul and what happened in Afghanistan was such a catalyst for so many things we saw follow, whether it be Putin going into Ukraine, whether it now be tensions escalating with Xi and Taiwan. Obviously, you know, the silence from the White House is something that many people can't accept. Like, acknowledge this, acknowledge what went on your watch, President Biden.
100%. I'm so sick of leaders pointing to the last group of leaders and not taking any accountability themselves. I mean, there's enough blame all the way around, but if I was the president, I would say I own this and I wouldn't try and deflect to my predecessor. And it's just so disheartening because we have so many great young Americans that try to join the military for idealistic reasons, and mistakes will be made, but I think at a bare minimum, validating their sacrifices with timely assessments of failure are something that we just don't have in our leadership right now. And it's across the board in the military too. It's not just political. It's all our senior general officers don't have the moral courage that I think our junior service members deserve.
Yeah. When I was talking about your story in particular with a couple Marine veterans that I know, this term came up that I had never heard before, and I wonder if you can talk about it because it's basically what happened to you. The term is the green weenie, and it refers to the command structure within the military, particularly in the Marine Corps.
I know what it refers to. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of phrases, and that's just one that it just kind of is humorous that we say often, and it's when the system kind of sticks it to you despite everything that you've given up. You know, a normal military member, the hours that they work, the things that they do, you know, the headlines are the deployments and the sensational things, but that's only 1% of the time. The other 99% of the time, they're still estranged from their families, putting in selfless sacrifice. And it often is a slap in the face when, after all these things that you've done, the system doesn't uphold the same values and standards that they tried to project upon you.
Because there really is a disconnect between the decisions that are being made at the Pentagon and the reality that, you know, lieutenant colonels and majors and other, you know, the captains who are actually there in the trenches, that there's a big disconnect, right? That's the biggest issue.
100%. I mean, I was watching that news clip you just played before of Al Sadr. I was in Ramadi when Al Sadr was a player, and we had ways to pull him into the government back then.
Right.
But people aren't listening, right? And so 100% wars are being lost in America in the scene between the National Security Council and the 4-star combatant command general officer level. And the reason is that general officers are just such people pleasers. They either are unable to give good advice, or once they do and it's not received well, they don't have the ability to push back because they want to please their boss. And so I try to lay out in the book a whole career of how the military has gotten off track. I give some recommendations on how we can get back on track. And I also go into the real raw story of what I went through. And so I think it's going to relate to a lot of people, because I know there's a lot of people from my GWAT generation that are just left scratching their head because there were so many ways that we could have been more effective. But because the big green weenie doesn't always listen to you, it can be a problem.
That book, Crisis of Command: How We Lost Trust and Confidence in Americans' Generals and Politicians, it comes out September the 6th. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys.